then when this cools down, it sucks air, which is dumb. Its nose comes off pretty easy. It's just these two clips, slides forward, and then boomers put a picture of like mechanical points, and they're like, comment if you know what this is. Our childhood was better than millennials. That's crazy. You got this eye glow and magniflex everything all day long at all times. Ah. What's up, people? We are back with the 1986 Argo Formula Continental, or in quick layman's term, the sweet formula car I bought for $8,000. The car that I think can wax a heck of a lot of Ferrari challenge cars around mid-Ohio on the cheap. So you really can't beat that at all. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun and charming. So today, what I wanna do is go over the car with you. Let's assess what we've got. Let's go through the boxes of parts and find a direction to go. I started looking it over yesterday, did a little bit to it, but I really got to go over it. And I think this is a really important experience for you all because, yeah, you can go out and buy a race car that's pretty close, but how do you look at it? And how do you judge a race car and what is good or good enough versus a street car? First tip, I got to take this off because of my, my mic. This is my racing balaclava, which doubles as a fantastic coronavirus mask. It's soft and it's also fire resistant. So win, win, win. Yes. But I'm in the shop, so that can come off right now, thankfully. All right, so where to begin? Let's get the nose off here. I wanted to put the bodywork back on for you because it looks kind of, it's cool without the bodywork on, but it doesn't make as good a thumbnail, let's be honest. So here we go. So the nose comes off pretty easy. It's just these two clips, slides forward, off the supports, and I'm gonna get it out of the way. Now this nose is a little bit heavier if you wanna look at it. This one's definitely been around the block a few times and been reinforced with fiberglass, and maybe back in the day people were pushing somebody with it. That happens a bit. I think nowadays, especially when you're in vintage racing, people are a little less ridiculous, so you can race a little bit cleaner. Also, these front wings are pretty floppy, and the wing fences are also pretty floppy and terrible, but fortunately we've got some new ones back here, or some other ones, and that'll be fun to go through and check out and see what we can do. We also have a secondary nose here, which feels a bit lighter. Could be lighter, could be nicer. Maybe we'll run this, I don't know, but that'll come on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by removing the top bodywork. And one thing that I've noticed about this is there's no clips, there's no hardware that holds this on yet. So that's something I'm gonna have to do. If you wanna look a little more carefully, I do see here, there was some sort of hardware that probably fastened it down there, something right here, and something right here. So I'm not sure if those were little bolts or Allen screws that held the bodywork on fast or what. But especially since this is going to be kind of a sportsman's car in the future for fun, and maybe I want to be able to go to the track by myself and not have, maybe my wife's bored and she doesn't want to help me out and I got no friends to bring along. So if it's just me, I want to be able to take the bodywork off and get to assess the parts and things when I'm running. So what I might do is make kind of an old time spring clip or something to hold it on. But first thing, we've got the snorkel here, which is for your cool air direction into, I got to get an air filter for the carburetor here. That's the little 2-choke downdraft Weber carburetors. They're not real exciting, but it's part of the formula. And I appreciate you guys saying all about all the cool engine swaps and things one could do to make this a lot faster, but that kind of misses the point. It's a Formula Continental, and the whole point is to have a car that you can run in classes fairly against others for good sporting competition. If I was just going to engine swap the car, you'd make a Frankenstein that would be kind of worthless. And if you want to go faster around the track, you just need to buy a different formula car that runs in a group. So I just want to throw that out there for you guys. And also keep in mind that when you engine swap cars, start throwing more power at it, it may not have been designed for said amount of power. So this thing, I don't know what they make, 130, 150 horsepower max. It's kind of a mild, somewhat boring, single overhead camshaft Ford. You can come look at it. That is a derivative in terms of what was in Pintos. And the gearbox back here is the old Volkswagen Beetle case with Hewland internals and such. So they're not really designed for loads of horsepower. It'll do just fine with this. So with this car, that shouldn't sound boring because this car has very modern suspension, push rod suspension, just like Indy cars, and quite nice shocks. So there's going to be lots of fun and interest with tuning this just as it is with this class for maximum performance. And that's where the fun's really going to be, and that's where you're going to gain a lot of skill. You can always build a car or engine swap something else later for fun, but this isn't the right candidate for that. So we got the bodywork off, and I had this off yesterday. I was starting to work on it. So the first thing is, when you're looking at your car, you got to see what you got. So first thing, I got some tools here in the way because I was futzing with some things. I know it sounds trivial, but I'm just going to show. This steering wheel is stupid. I'm sure this was cool in the 80s and 90s being multicolored, but your hand doesn't fit on it very well. And frankly, it's just almost as terrible as the Corvette C8 steering wheel. So this has got to go. But on the plus side, and this is where I'm going to be a hipster, a total hipster, because I'm going to take this, which I think is an ergonomic disaster and whatnot, and suede, and I'm going to put on a steering wheel that's kind of an ergonomic disaster. It could be a lot better. It's better than that, but I like it because it's the sake of old school. It's kind of tiny and ridiculous. But the problem is, it's also really small, and you don't have any visibility. So you can't even see your gauge properly, which is dumb. It's kind of like a Lamborghini Miura. You can't actually see the gauges properly in those cars. They're pretty, but they were designed stupid. So I've got another steering wheel much like this on my bookshelf at home, which is bigger. And I think that might work because there's room in the cockpit and there is room to actually be able to look through it for the gauges. But for right now, I might go with my teeny tiny hipster steering wheel. I did notice that the quick release mount does fit this, but it's got this dumb pin that goes in. If I can get in and out of the car without taking the steering wheel off, then that's cool. But it does appear that the bolt pattern for these two steering wheels is the same. So if that's the case, I'm just going to put on this much nicer quick release where you just squeeze it to put it on like that. And now it's locked, and then you just squeeze it to take it off, versus this old school cheapo one, which kind of looks like more of a circle track thing with one of these pins with the locking. So I'm going to put this back in so I don't forget it, but going to have a little hipster fun there. And frankly, I still like the way that this fits better than this one here. So we'll go over it. Okay, and now with this, get rid of the silly things. So first thing we got to talk about is initially, I'm just going to start with the safety items, okay? Now the first thing I did is unbolt these belts because the gentleman whom I bought it from said, one, you need a new fire system, you need new belts, it's got a new fuel bladder in it, but you kind of have to go from there. So we're going to start with that just because it's in the middle. There's a lot of other things to go over. Now these are Villains belts, or Williams. I'm probably not pronouncing it, and all the Europeans are going to yell at me right now. But these are typically great, high-quality European safety harnesses. They've been around for a long time, great company, high-quality stuff, and they make really good things for tiny formula cars, which this is. Now, the problem with these seat belts are, if you look at the date, it says 1985, which means they're about forever out of date and no good. Now, I might run those in a hot rod or something like that, but it's not going to fly with this. So I'm going to have to buy new ones. I'll probably get the same manufacturer because it'll fit really well. You've got the good points here in your roll harness. You've got the good point tabs here on the frame. And I'm going to get a 6-point. The 6-point, your lap belt mounts right here to the side, but you also have straps that go under like this around your legs and over, and then they loop through your lap belt and clip on here. And I like those a lot because it brings the support around your legs and pelvis. It's the safest thing against anti-submarining and just really nice way to go. I'm not a big fan of 5 points where you just have a single crotch strap. You really have to mount those perfectly for them to be effective. And I think they suck in a formula car or anything you're laying down more. So 6-point is really the way to go. Just gonna have to pony up and buy a new harness and get that. Also, you look right here in the center, that's where the fire bottle goes. Now, I know there's going to be a number of you right now that will freak out to that notion and be like, you're going to put a fire bottle that's full of high-pressure gas right below your legs? I'm like, yeah, it's a race car. There's only so much room in these things. And that's actually a reasonably safe spot. So here is an old fire bottle, which has nothing on it to say how old it is. Ooh, it's got Halon in it. That's cool. Wow, look at this. That is old school. Okay, so what it looks like it had was, you know, 2 directions of lines. Here's one nozzle. That one probably went under the dash or beside. Frankly, everything that's going to catch on fire in a formula car is going to be from the fuel cell back. Fuel cell, you got your oil tank, and you've got everything back here with fuel. So really, your nozzles are going to be directed all toward the back and the engine bay, as just a note. Now here's another fire bottle. Doggone it, how old is this? It's kind of such a shame because there's clearly fluid in this, And I could probably take this into a place. I wonder if they would refresh it, but even if they did refresh it, would it be any good? That lies the big question. So this looks like the fire push button because it's guarded, it's not easy to hit, an electric type. I have to admit, I'm not as big a fan as electric actuated things because in my circumstance, or in my experience, electric things fail. Mechanical things can too, but if you have a good mechanical system, you can straight up see the linkage from here to there, and all you have to do is use your manpower to make it work. It's tried, it's true, it works. Sometimes I don't really like these high fancy fire bottles that work on electric circuits and stuff. So that's where that would go. So what I'm gonna do is try to find a system that likely fits in the same place because space is in such a premium in this car. There's really not room for anything else and the bottle's gonna have to go there. If the nowadays bottles out there are a little bit bigger or longer, I may have to drill out this aluminum panel right here to make it fit under your knees so you can still get in and out no problem. So that's something I'm gonna have to do. Gonna have to spend a little bit of money, but it's worth it. You know, truthfully, it seems kind of a shame to spend so much money on a fire system in a teeny tiny formula car because this isn't the kind of car you think of as bursting into flames in as much. It's not that fast, it's open cockpit, it's tiny, everything's back there. I mean, it can happen, I know, but if you see the Genius Garage IMSA Corvette, oh yeah, that thing, definitely want a fire system and you're stuck inside it. So, you know, that's a pretty good way to go. But anyway, so there's the old fire bottles. That'll help us get it going. We've got some steering wheels in here. What else do we got? Looks like some old radiator hoses. Now this car has a radiator on both sides. So if you look down there, you can see a lot's going on. Here's an old timing belt. I don't know why they kept it. It's probably older than the hills. And we got a couple of fuel pumps. These things do use a mechanical fuel pump, which if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't worked on these engines, so I could be, is most likely pushed by a lobe from the camshaft. So that's nice to have some new fuel pumps here. Of course, you want to keep your fuel pump primed, otherwise you're sitting there cranking a long time to get your fuel to get up in there, and you may run out your battery. Looks like this is another belt for the water pump, and so it's got a belt specifically for the water pump. The timing belt has its own specific belt, and then the dry sump oil pump has its own belt as well. In looking at this, and if you want to come over here to this side carefully, or step over there, I want to show you something. So here is the water pump. If you can see down in here, this belt and this pulley, and I can see that this pulley is worn quite a lot. The teeth have worn, it still is on there well, but it's not great. So honestly, that really should be replaced. Eventually, if it gets just too bad, it'll destroy belts and come apart. That's no good. So something to pay attention to. For right now, I might just let it ride and get over it. Something else I noticed, this right here, if you can see this pulley, this is my tensioner for my cam belt, and there is a set screw right here that holds it, and there is a spring that holds that. Now right now, the timing belt feels like it's at the right tension. But if I push on that, the whole thing moves because the set bolt is not even set. So I just want to say how that's an example of, even if something, careful there, even if something has been built and looks good, and I have reasonable confidence that this engine will be okay. It was built by a hobbyist. You know, he did a good job, but you know, he's a hobbyist and things can happen with old cars. It's an old car, so something could go wrong, but you know, you just check it over. And that's not saying anything negative about the person previous to you, but there's things like that that need to be done. So, I'm sitting on something. Tape. So, in terms of safety, I need a fire bottle, I need seat belts, which I have written down here. In fact, I need a new battery. That battery up there is shot. And even if it's not shot, it's shot. Okay, it's been on there for a long time, and I really need a battery that I can rely on. This one's held up way up in the nose, most likely just for weight distribution, honestly, because it's kind of a tricky thing. I don't mind putting the battery up here because you got this really great bulkhead. If you crash really hard, it would get smushed with all these things. But honestly, if you're crashing that hard straight into something, you don't care about the battery. You know what I'm saying? So it needs a battery, fire bottle. Ooh, points. Now this is a fascinating one. Now if you guys come back here and look, here is the distributor cap. And I'm going to pop this thing off. Look at that, mechanical points. Holy mackerel. Holy boomer, Batman. Look at that, mechanical points. Now, the thing about mechanical points are, they work just fine. But just fine is not good enough for me. And I can tell you this, I drove a Formula Ford once, a long time ago, that my dad and I put together in Mid-Ohio, and bad points and the stupid old distributor cost us the entire weekend and race. It's not worth it. So I am definitely gonna put electric points in it. You will have an absolutely consistent spark. You're not going to get anything like points bounce and stuff. So you know that your sparking will be totally consistent, which is very important when you have a spec series car like this. Any car for that matter. Just get rid of mechanical points. And as a note, and I know I'm probably sounding a little ranty, to be honest, I'm kind of stressed out today. So I hope I'm not imparting that upon you guys today. But how many of y'all are getting tired of looking on LinkedIn and Facebook and then boomers put a picture of like mechanical points and they're like, comment if you know what this is. Our childhood was better than millennials. No, it wasn't. Your mechanical points suck. We know what they are. We just choose not to use them. Just stop doing that, okay? I just had to say that. It's kind of funny. Okay, so anyway, tires. These tires are clearly junk. And not because they're Goodyear. Although, you know, Goodyear hasn't helped us, so what do I care? They're junk, they're old, they're garbage. So I'm gonna call up Hoosier. Love that company. Love working with them in terms of engineering, working directly with them. And Genius Garage has won a lot of races on them. So I'm gonna go the route of Hoosier, which is gonna be great. And fortunately, I've got another set of these wheels, which are pretty good looking. They're magnesium centered wheels with an aluminum rim. So the 3-piece there, you can see how they bolt together. Hopefully this other set seals. So what I'll probably do is get a set of slicks for the one and put a set of reins on the other. And that's kind of nice too, because it's been a while since I've had a race car that you can run in the rain. Because frankly, like when I run with the Genius Garage car, and we've only ever had one day that, well, 2 that got rained out, but the IMSA Corvette and like a NASCAR, they're just straight not built to run in the rain at all. And that's not like a bravado thing like, oh, you have to be a Regenmeister and good to drive in the rain. No, like those cars are not meant to drive in rain. They have like no wheel wells, there's no weight transfer. They're horrific things. You don't put on rain tires. It's not a rain car. But this, you can drive in the rain, and driving a Formula car in the rain, honestly, is a lot of fun. And that's where real talent can shine. And that's something that I've always been a massive fan and advocate of, and frankly, I love it when the lightning comes and the storm rolls in, the rain happens, especially if it's only raining on parts of the track, because I was never able to afford good equipment. So I had to beat people with talent. And the second things like that happen, well, then that's when real talent shines. And it was always good for me, so I always enjoy those conditions. Now, if we keep going, where's my list? This is going to be disjointed, Casey's disjointed. I only had 1 cup of coffee today, okay? Okay, so, oh yes, tires. Now, carb stuff. So this carburetor here, let's take a look. I put some tape on it. It's kind of skunky looking. It has a fresh fuel filter going to it, and it might run great. But he said I think, that the carburetor that's on it is kind of meh, or it's not like updated. And allegedly, there is a newer carburetor that comes with this thing, presumably in a box behind the camera guy right now. But it needs to be jetted. Careful, don't die, don't die. Here you go. Sorry, this is too much junk. This real world, it's like being in a garage. And do you want me to move this bodywork for you? There's junk everywhere. Junk everywhere. And can you guys tell this red bodywork here belongs to the Like in the Genius Garage? So if you look, this is Casey's corner. My junk has been banished to the corner where we used to store tires and my toolbox, which I kind of like, okay? I don't mind being banished to the corner with my Formula car. Heck with you guys, with your fancy Lycan build. All right, so this can stay up here. Where's my other carburetor? We got suspension, we got fuel pumps, got a bunch of malarkey. Apparently some more gaskets for the motor, that's good. Hopefully I don't need them for a while or ever. All right, what do we got in here? Come on over and look. So this is cool, and this is something I like about a lot of old race cars. Here's some extra uprights. Now this one has clearly been wrecked and welded, albeit not real well. Anyway, so these are uprights, and I believe on this car, the uprights on the front and the rear are interchangeable, and interchangeable on each corner. So that's really smart and really nice. I hope that's the case in case I ever need to replace one. Looks like, so we got uprights, we got CV boots, there's shims, looks like there's a drive flange and maybe a bearing. Someone told me these came off of a Fiat Panda or something. Now the bearing here is, it says Italy, SKF, so that could be the case. I'll probably need to figure that out. We've got some bell cranks here. Yep, these are bell cranks for the front suspension right there, which is nice. The nickel plating on them is really nice, and they look to be really nicely TIG welded, hand welded. So if there's any issues with those, I might replace them. The ones that are on the car right now have got some surface corrosion, which isn't going to hurt anything, but you want to make sure they're not cracked and everything about them is good. And I'll definitely clean those up. So it's sort of your own call. There's a certain truism that a clean race car is a fast race car, because if you take enough time to make things be clean and look pretty and properly plated, then you're probably taking the time to make sure there's no cracks and setting it up well and organizing things. It's not always the case, but generally it's kind of the case. But I've also seen people spend tons of time polishing the aluminum of a monocoque and their cars are still slow. Come on over and look here. So what do we got here? Lucas, maybe these are points. No. The Prince of Darkness, Lucas, hey-ho. Oh, there's seals for, yeah, for brake master cylinders. That's cool, okay, probably gonna need those. You know, the other thing too is the brake master cylinders that are on this, let's look here. We got an old school Girling that has the metal cap, which I hate because they corrode and they kind of suck and they're old. You can rebuild them and all. Here's another one of those. Now this Girling one, from England, it has an extension for the reservoir because this one is for the rear brakes, that one is for the clutch, and this is for the front brakes. Now this one appears to be Girling as well, but it has a interchangeable remote, even though it's right on it. You can remove it. Big master cylinder for the fronts, because in the front, your front brakes are the most important. They're going to use up the pads faster. And frankly, sometimes you want to have a bunch of fluid in case it starts leaking or something, then you've got more time before it gets really bad. But where I'm going with this is, I'm actually not a fan of these old school Girling master cylinders. And I learned that way back when I was in college, and I was restoring and finishing my first vintage race car, which was a Triumph Power Devon, because I was poor and broke and wanted to go fast and not die. And what I learned was the Girling ones just have one seal. They're pretty simple. They're kind of expensive. But if you look, like Willwood and other companies, Willwood I think at the time, they're a little bit cheaper, but they have like 2 seals and they're better machined and they're more available. So I switched all my things over to Willwood, and even though Girling was probably the first on the scene with those like racing reservoirs and stuff, because you see them in all the old British cars, including probably the Morgan over there. I don't like them as much and they're more expensive. So just a tip to the wise that like the flanges sort of all work. So I kind of want to replace all those, but at the same time too, that brings you in a topic of discussion. If they work well and I rebuilt them and they're nice with nice seals, they should be fine. Obviously people race with those things forever and ever and ever. So if I can do that by putting in the time and I feel confident that I did a good job of resealing the brakes, then that's great, and it may save me a little money because I got them. So with this car, anybody could buy something like this and just throw gobs and gobs and gobs of money at it. But that's not necessarily going to make you faster, safer, or better. It just means you're buying a lot of new parts. And with this car, what I really want to showcase for you all is the ability that you can in fact go racing and race well and learn something and have a great time in reasonable safety without spending all your money in the world. So I'm going to keep it with that. And on that note, when I'm working on this, and I want you all to realize if you're following along, I am going to work on this like a sportsman, like an individual, not like a pro shop. Here's the thing about a pro shop. If I bought this car and took this to Racing Shop X, they don't know the car. And now they have to maintain a certain standard for me as their client. So shops will go a long, long way to make sure everything's perfect. They're going to want to Magnaflex and crack tuss everything immediately. They're going to want everything to be new. They're going to want to rebuild everything. They want to restore everything. Everything about it is going to be garbage. They're going to hate it all because they don't want to prepare a car and have it be pretty good and then get to a track and for their client to invest a bunch of time and money into it and then have something not work right. You know, in the past when I had a shop and I was maintaining some pretty high-end cars, a Lola T70 Mark II Spider, real car, not a replica. We just got the car from the owner, the client, real nice guy, fast driver. But he didn't give us the car with enough time to prepare the damn thing. And the motor was done badly by the previous place. So we had to do like this magic feat of nature and no sleep to get this car as prepared as possible to go to the race, which of course is the Can-Am reunion at Road America, which is the hardest one of the year. And then you start finding out things about how like where the car was restored to be pretty in a car that would drive. There's a major difference between restoration and race prep. And we just kept chasing things all weekend long that wasn't our doing. So I know there's a long-winded way of saying it, but I'm gonna do this car like a sportsman because I know I can fix things, because that's how I think most of you are gonna do racing. That's more important, not like a shop. I just want you guys to know the difference there. Still gotta be safe. So anyway, what we got in here, the rest of it, there's some brand new brake pads, which is really nice because brake pads get expensive. That's for sure. It looks like there's Hawks and Ferrados. So that's really cool, but that doesn't get me to some of the parts I want or find me this carburetor. And there's already brakes in the car. And right now, the car does a good job of not moving. And I would rather it do a better job of moving. We can worry about stopping later. I think the brakes work as is right now. Okay, what else we got? Ooh, we got a bucket. It's a goofy looking catch can. Okay, ooh, extra mirrors. Aren't those cute? I already have some, whatever. Okay, junk. Ooh, there's a pen in here. LPM of Oklahoma, a Nissan forklift. Whoa, hey guys, what's the jokes about forklift operators? You know what I'm talking about, those t-shirts?
That's the joke, forklift operator.
Is it such a big thing? Yeah, I got a Nissan forklift, LPM of Oklahoma pen. You guys want in on that action? Okay. Lame. All right, so there's a bunch of A-arms in here. Ooh, I bet this one's in good shape. Looks like old A-arms. Looks like this one was broken and then welded together with some rosettes. So kind of old junk. Maybe they'll just make a template. There's an old fuel pump in here. Ah, I wonder if this is exactly what I need. It doesn't look like it anymore. Huh. This looks like it might hold the oil cooler here. It looked like it did it once. Okay, that could be helpful for mounting this, because right now I've got nothing to mount this oil cooler with. And this looks like it used to sort of, actually, I don't know, that's wacky. All right, well, they might be helpful, they might not for holding the oil cooler, because I'm gonna have to figure that out, you guys. Okay, so this box, not as fantastic as hoped for, but there's parts. It's also sort of funny when you have a race car that you keep this much junk around that you will never ever use, but like everybody wants spares. So that's kind of a thing. Already went through that box. Come on, carburetor. Let's make this thing work. How's the mic doing? Okay. We got spark plugs, hooray. Oh wait, ooh, what's this? Are these body pins to hold the bodywork on? Because that'd be nice. Yes, yes. Oh yeah, here's some clips. That might be for the nose. There's some pins, like hood pin clips you'd see on like a muscle car or something, but I don't have any pins. Okay, what else is in here? Oh, there's another rotor, hooray. Okay, we got some little bearings probably for a bell crank. If you want to come in and look closer, you can. Some big bronze bushings. Those look like for the big bell cranks in the rear. Wonder how fast they wear out. Looks like a steering tie rod end that goes in the steering rack. You can change the location of your tie rod. Should change your geometry for presumably for bump steer. Got some brackets here. Ooh, I wonder if these are body mounting brackets. Let's find out. Oh, you know what? I bet these are. Okay, so I think what these do, you guys, are, if you remember when I was seeing those two little holes on the sides of the bodywork, here, I'll show you again. You can see these two holes here, right? And there's two holes here. I believe that these bolt on the inside, okay, of the bodywork, and then they go over the frame like this to locate it, which would keep the bodywork from moving left and right, but I don't know what holds it down. So if it wedges itself in the nose and it can't hold down, there's just got to be something that holds down probably. So that's a good thing. And I do recall the gentleman who built this put this tab on here to reset the nice electric tachometer, but he put it exactly where this goes. I didn't know what went there, but I remember him telling me he put it in a location that screws up the mounting of the body. So we solved that mystery. These go for mounting the body, and that's really great. That's kind of the fun thing about doing race cars and old cars when it's a bunch of parts. It's then you have to put the puzzle back together. And this is also why I think it's important that kids play with things like Legos, you know, and why I think it's stupid that all the schools in the world got rid of shop class, because we can't make any money if kids go into the trades and build stuff. We only make a lot of money if they go to college. And I don't want to have to teach kids and have liabilities if they cut their finger. So that's why they got rid of shop class. Mostly bad leadership and laziness. Okay, Casey, why are you ranting? Because I'd like to see America be better in the future. All right, what else we got here? Loads of hardware junk. It's not junk, it looks helpful. We got spark plug wires. Oh, we're gonna need this. So here is, there's only 3 of them though. So the MSD box here, if it's still any good. By the way, the reason why you see in NASCAR and like Trans Am, there's 2 MSD boxes in it is because they fail a lot and you want to have 2. This is only got 1 though. But these are the rubber feet that protect this from vibration, and somebody mounted this directly to the aluminum. So this is going to vibrate a heck of a lot, especially with that 2-liter 4-cylinder motor being rigidly mounted to the frame. So gonna want to put this on, otherwise it'll probably vibrate the MSD to death. And if there's any representatives from MSD watching, you know what I'm talking about. And if I'm wrong, then you should reach out to me and show me the products that don't fail, because an MSD box failing on the Genius Garage IMSA Corvette in a short amount of hours cost us first place at Indianapolis twice. Just have to say that. Still a little salty, but it made for a great race because we drove the living bejesus out of that car to finish 3rd both those days and still get a podium. All right, what do we got here? Florida pneumatic. Whoa. What's this? Oh, neat. Okay, this will be helpful. Oh, shut up. Okay, good. This might be super helpful. Come here, you guys. Okay, so. Yes. It totally doesn't do what I think it did. Maybe this is for the transmission. So we've got a socket that somebody made here that's kind of long and fits a big thing. I have a feeling this is for changing gears in the transaxle or something like that, because it doesn't fit the wheel. We've also got some spacers and a big washer. Yeah, I thought I knew what this stuff was. I don't know what this stuff is anymore. Okay, so we've got a mystery socket that's fabricated that clearly is here for a reason. So we're definitely gonna hang on to that. That might be really, really important. We'll find out. I thought maybe it went for the nuts that are on the wheels. It does not fit that. So my best guess is it's for the transaxle for changing gears. So, and since it's a little car, not a lot of horsepower, you do need to change gears for the track you're gonna be on if you want a ghost of a chance of winning. What else do we got? Got some brake lines, flexible. Ooh, we got piston rings. That's interesting. Carburetor, yes! Okay, do you want to take a look? Come over here and take a look. Ooh, lots of carburetor parts. Okay, that's cool. Oh boy. All right, so we got all kinds of the inside guts. We got floats in here, we got jets, we got needles. We got 2 carburetors. They are not fresh looking, but they don't look terrible. This one looks okay, but there's skunkiness in it. So I don't really know what's going on. Perhaps in the next episode, or when we get to the carburetor, we will be taking that off, looking at what we got, looking at measuring the venturi, seeing what size they are, and figuring out what is legal and also the best performing, most proper one for nowadays. There are some funny things about these. I remember on a 1600cc Formula Ford from the early 70s that I ran way back when, the float bowl, which is here, and that's where the fuel stays, we had a stock one, and it sucked so bad. If you were in a corner more than 90 degrees, so like the carousel at Mid-Ohio or the hairpin, it would just start starving of fuel. It was absolute garbage. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out the tricks to make it be happy, or at least with what we had available to us. But fortunately, Jeff Snook, who is a sportsman in vintage racing, he was nice and lent me the carburetor off his Formula Ford for the weekend, and that was very helpful. Till we got an updated carburetor. So we've got the carburetors. That'll be great for an upcoming episode. And rebuild kits are relatively inexpensive. Okay, so we got Heim joints here, or rod ends, spherical bearings. A bunch of those in here. Look a little older. We got another wheel bearing. That's nice to know we've got that. Here is an air filter for the carburetor. That's really helpful, actually, although it's really old. So this thing will bolt on like that. And then this, with little Zeus fasteners, will clip on like that. And then that's where the cool air will come. Now, the only problem with this is really old and falling apart. And I have a feeling if we ran it once, the engine would just ingest all this foam. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, because I can just take this foam off, and you can buy, from like Pipercross or whatever, you can buy air filter foam, and we can just kind of make a new one if that's cheaper, or we'll just have to buy one. So, you know, could do something there. In vintage racing or sportsman racing, an air filter is good. You know, you don't want to be sucking sand and rocks and stuff, because then you'll be following some squid and he sticks his wheels in the grass and he's kicking up dirts and sticks and stuff like that, and it's getting sucked into your engine. And I hear back in the old days, people would run off the road on purpose when there weren't air filters to try to get people's motors to ingest rocks. Hey, that was the way they raced back then. Maybe not the most sporting, but it's what they did. Looks like we got some engine bearings. That's cool for freshening things up. We got a big organization kit. Hooray. What's going on here? How do you open this? I'm not smart enough to open the box. Oh wait, those are hinges. Some fun little hardware that's important. Little cotter pins, little things that might be cable ends for throttle cables and stuff like this. This is really nice. There's some really usable stuff in here, and I don't have too many spares. Okay, that's cool. Sway bar arms, mounting points, more rod ends. Helpful stuff. So the other thing we'll do is, before this car goes out for the first test or race, we'll also go through it and I'll decide what spares are important to actually take along versus just taking a bunch of junk for the sake of taking junk. Here's another old distributor cap. Yeah. All right, so we found a bunch of good stuff. Things are definitely gonna need. Let's see, does that actually fit in here? How did that go? Yeah, I guess it fits. Doesn't seem like it does. All right, so let's put this stuff back. I'm gonna gently set this here. All right, now, so we know we've got some carburetors, but there's no like brand new carburetor in there. So it's gonna have to be rebuilt. I know I've got an air filter, so that's nice. I can check that off the list, but it needs to be rebuilt. So let's look at the list here for next time we're coming up. Do I have a pen? All right, tires, we're gonna put Hoosiers on it. Gotta rebuild a carb. Brake pads are okay. Air filter, yeah, I had that on there. I'm just gonna need some new material. Recirculation bottle, let me show you guys that. Something I noticed. So I don't like putting stupid catch tanks, and I don't mean catch tanks in general are stupid, I mean stupid catch tanks, which this is. So in racing, you need a catch tank for the breather of your transmission or transaxle. You need one for the breather of your motor, your engine, and you need one for the coolant or water overflow. Now, if you look right here, this big tank is the dry sump oil tank. This is where all the oil is stored and it spins around, et cetera, et cetera. Up here, this tube is the breather of the motor at the high point, and then this is the breather here, or the puke, that goes into this tank. Now, some problems. One, this is a pretty big hose that goes into this teeny tiny little doodad, which means there's not enough going on in here to get the blow by in the motor. You might pressurize the motor and end up blowing a seal out of it, potentially. So this breather really needs to be better. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in a little tank that will be specifically for engine oil, have a little filter on it, so any blow-by from the engine's piston rings or any puking oil can go directly into that. You keep that separate. I might consider running a little tube from the transaxle to do the same, just so you kind of keep oil together. But when I say a recirculation tank, this is your radiator cap. It works just the same as basically every car on the planet. And how that works is, when the pressure gets too great, it lets some out. So there's 3 seals. There's one at the top, there's one in the middle, and then there's this little one that people don't realize that goes the other direction. So when you get too much pressure in here because your engine is getting hot, some of the water or the pressure will come out and it'll go through this little tube into a tank. But later, if it cools off, this thing will actually contract and it'll want to suck the water back in. That's why it's a recirculation. So I like to have this work for me and have a separate bottle specifically for picking up the extra water, which is like how most stock vehicles do it. So when the water expands and it comes out, it goes into this bottle, And then when the engine cools down and it contracts, it goes back in. Whereas if you just have the water come out and go into a catch can alone, then when this cools down, it sucks air, which is dumb. It's so much better to do it the other way. So this bottle here might work. This is kind of mounted really, really super jank. In fact, if you want to come over here, I want to make fun of the way this is mounted. This is stupid. I don't really necessarily mind where the bottle is, but it's this floppy, and it's got 5 1/8-inch rivets. One's not even set right into the frame, which means they drilled 5 holes into the frame right here just to mount this thing badly. That's kind of annoying. It would have been nicer to mount it into this aluminum firewall part here if you can. Also, the coil looks kind of old and located silly. So we're going to redo some of that and in a way that hopefully allows you more at least visual access to see what's going on with your water pump and your belts and important things like that for the motor. Let's see what else we got. Catch cans, recirc, body fasteners, we got that. The auxiliary plug-in oil filter. Oil filter is very self-explanatory, but this Formula car is a total loss ignition system or a total discharge system. There's no alternator or generator on it because the only thing electronic on this car, beyond maybe the gauges, which don't draw a lot of juice, is the rain light, which you only use if it's raining, and the ignition system. So basically just the ignition system. That battery can power an ignition system no problem all weekend long, but there's a little plug back here. You're not going to see it well. Maybe you should come over and try to take a look. There's a little plug on the back where you can plug in, like a pit crew member or somebody can plug in an auxiliary big battery. So what you do is you just plug in your big auxiliary battery when you're in the pits or warming it up or you're about to start it up to go out on the track, so that that big battery is what's using the juice to crank over your motor, and then when you're on the track, the smaller onboard battery is really just powering the ignition system and potentially the rain light. And also that gives you a nice port to plug into if you need to charge your battery. So that's going to be an important thing to do for track days, is just have that little auxiliary battery and make it work. I'm still going to want a battery big enough and healthy enough on board this car that I can start it up a good number of times just from that and have everything in fine order, because I might be at a track and not have a helper buddy or something like that, and just like you guys are too. But that is the basic going over. Now, beyond all those things that I got to order and look at, I still got to keep looking and make sure there's nothing stupid going on. One thing I noticed in a big way is everything relating to the suspension, basically the whole car is loose. Like literally, nuts and bolts are not tight. Like you can just look right here. There's a big gap here. This isn't even tight. The sway bar here is not even attached. And the reason this isn't attached yet is because the person didn't do setup yet. This still has to go on scales, and a setup pad needs to be totally aligned. So when I do that, I will methodically go over every single point on the suspension, making sure things are tight, safety wired properly, if it needs a little Loctite, whatever. Going through all those things and making sure it's tight. So even though those things are a bit loose right now, it doesn't freak me out because I still have to do that. And since it's my car and I'm the only one working on it, then I know I will be going to do that here soon. Another thing that's kind of jank, if you can see, if you look down here, so it's got these cool Coney shocks, and you can see the spring in the hat, but this one, it got off center. So the last time this was jacked up, it got bumped over and it's sort of sitting badly. Kind of bugs my OCD with it being like that right now, but literally not even a big deal. The next time it's jacked up, I'll just push it over and it'll be fine. The brake lines look pretty darn nice, and he went over the brakes. I'm also really happy the cleanliness of the suspension and all the hardware. So that makes me feel pretty good that I've got a good car, good solid car here. A number of these suspension arms are brand new, and the welds look beautiful. So I'm gonna eyeball them. The uprights are aluminum. They're not steel, so you can't Magnaflux them because Magna is a magnet and little ferrule particles to look for cracks. So you'd have to like Zy-Glow them or something like that. I'm just gonna inspect them really carefully. This is a lightweight car. It's not something that freaks me out as much, and those things look basically brand new. Now, I say that I'm doing that, and every shop in the world would be like, that's crazy, you have to Zy-Glow and Magnaflux everything all day long, at all times, safety. Yeah, you're right, but there's also, relax and pay attention to it, you know what I mean? So, and obviously I'll be looking over the car carefully, and this is a low horsepower car that doesn't make a ton of downforce. So that's something there. But I'm really excited. I hope you guys are looking forward to the journey, but I just wanted to go over it with you initially so you know where we're at. And next time we come back, hopefully I have more parts. I'm gonna get this car up in the air a little bit, sitting on the chassis. I'm gonna take all the wheels off so I can see everything, and I'm gonna just start going through the whole car. But long story short, guys, I look forward to seeing you next time.